Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Losses Above Replacement, the greatest baseball podcast to grace your ears. I'm today's host, Mathias Altman-Kurosaki, and with me, as always, we have my amazing co-hosts, Alex Clark and Ryan Splash Potts. Gentlemen, first things first, as we begin every show, how are we doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
Oh, we're doing all right. Hey, this is the first time recording on StreamYard. Hell yeah!
Woo.
We're doing,
New era.
We're doing good over here. I had a very fun weekend. I went into a golf tournament and actually placed in the top 5 of my division. That was fun. Made a little bit of money on it. So first time ever I could say that I've actually made money golfing. But besides, in little games with friends. Other than that, though, doing all right so far. I did tweak my knee, though, working out the other day. And I'm still kind of recovering in on that.
We're not going to talk about the baseball events that conspired over the weekend.
I'm going to second that.
I watched my first F1 race. Shout out to the producer, Jack. And I watched the Cavs take down Orlando Magic. So Donovan Mitchell's the GOAT. The Cavs are going to be blasted by the Celtics back to like the 1900s. So see you guys in a week.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the NBA too. My New York Knicks kick off their series tonight. We are recording this on Monday, May 6th. They are playing the Pacers this week. I'm very excited. Like Splash said, I mean, baseball, I don't even know what sport that is, if I'm being completely honest. I also competed this weekend. I swam in a meet out in the Bronx, which was pretty fun. I had very low expectations for it, considering I did not have a great week of training and I did not rest or anything, but honestly, did better than I expected. And I signed up to go to Indianapolis for nationals at the end of next month. I'm actually going to Denver at the end of this week to visit my sister with my parents. So, yeah, I'm doing all right. Rained yesterday, but we're looking pretty good today. We're going. But anyways, we did have some big baseball news over the weekend. Actually, it was at the beginning of the weekend, about 15 minutes before the Marlins and A's were scheduled to play in Oakland. The Marlins pulled the plug, sending two-time defending batting champion Luis Arráez to the Padres for an interesting return, I'd say. Headline, I feel like the headliner here is probably the reliever the Padres signed from Korea this offseason, Woo-Suk Go. It's a package of 4 players, including, one second, my Twitter deleted the tweet for a second from my app. But yeah, Woo-Suk Go is the headliner, at least in my opinion. But granted, he's not having a great year in the minors. So it's Woo-Suk Go, Dylan Head, Jacob Marcy, and Nathan Martorella. That's the full return. Now, in all my years of being a baseball fan, this is, I've been a baseball fan basically since the year I was born in 2000. This trade transpired on May 3rd. I think that's the earliest I've ever seen a team wave the white flag. But the Marlins are 10-26 right now. So Peter Bendix has admitted they probably won't be in the playoffs. Guys, what do you make of this deal? You're sending a 2-time batting champion to San Diego, getting a gaggle of interesting players in return. What do you guys make of it?
So my initial reaction to this was, wow. That this early, like that is the main takeaway from this. It's not even just the fact that the trade happened, but that this trade happened in early May. Like usually for the MLB season, we don't see any big blockbuster stuff until, like, honestly, at the very earliest June. Like, and that's if you're being a little easy on it. Like seeing a trade this big for a batting champion in Luis Arraez is surprising, to say the least. And I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't get a good haul back here. Dylan Head, Woo-Suk Go, Martorella, and Marcy. But at the same time, like, this feels weird. Because at that time, the mantra for a lot of teams is that the first month, you're getting some of the kinks rolled out. It's good to have a good record during that time, but you have plenty of time to go from it. We all know that baseball's a marathon, not a sprint. And was it the owner who said this stuff on it, or
Bendix?
Bendix is their GM.
The GM, okay. But the GM openly admitting for the word go on this, that we're not winning this. Is that we're not winning this season? We're already tanking. Sorry, is weird. And honestly, I really don't like. I think it's a really bad look for the organization personally. But if you're the San Diego Padres, you just pulled the plug. It's like you just pulled the trigger on a great trade right now that just really helped out your infield, got yourself an even better hitter that's going to really flourish, I think, in the confines of Petco Park. And because again, it is very much it is a pitcher's ballpark, but unless you're Luis Arráez, who really takes good matters of bigger ballparks because he isn't a big hitter. He is a slap hitter. He's a guy that just finds open gaps and gets there. He doesn't knock the ball out of the ballpark very much. No, I think this was something that I'm willing to bet that the Marlins reached out to the Padres or to other teams saying, hey, we're looking to get rid of this guy. Do you want him? And the Padres were the first team to say, yes, we do. Like, the only thing that's truly concerning about all this is the date that it happened. That it happened in early May. Like, I understand the idea that if you're tanking or you think you're not going to do well, might as well just start throwing it from the word go at that point. But with a team that has some pretty nice talent on it, Luis Arráez, you've got Sandy Alcantara, you've got Jake Berger, you've got all these guys that are actually pretty decent. Like, I know the division is tough. Like, you're in arguably one of the most like top heavy divisions in baseball, but it just feels a little early.
I can agree with you on the early part, but I'm more favorable to the Marlins side than I think a lot of people are. I've been scrolling through Twitter, and every other tweet is a Luis Arráez is the modern day Tony Gwynn, the modern day Rod Carew, or the modern day Wade Boggs. Can we relax, please? Arráez is a very good hitter. Those guys are a little bit more well-rounded as hitters, pure hitters, than Arráez is. Now, contact hitter, Arráez might be the best contact hitter relative to his peers ever. Like, that is no joke. He might be. But the difference is Wade Boggs walked at a 13% clip. Tony Gwynn walked about the same amount, but hit for a higher ISO, especially later in his career. So, look, I'm not saying Arráez is never going to hit for any power and never going to be he's a currently career 0.99 ISO player. That's not helpful. And I made the point of this on the Twitter, if you want to read more into that. If you have the elite tool, that's great. But if Luis Arráez isn't hitting 350 or around 350, he's not as productive of a hitter as you think, because he doesn't do other things to impact the game. So as a well-rounded player, give me a bunch of other second basemen. And even the Padres agree with that, and he's plugged in as their DH right now. So the prospect haul that the Marlins got back is interesting. So Head was the first-round pick for San Diego last year. Big speed. He's in low air. He's in A-ball right now. Not going great, but you like the speed. You can project the speed at least. Motorella is having more success at Double-A. He entered Friday with about a 400 on base percentage, which is nice. And then Marcy is a very pull-happy player, very fly-ball-oriented player. So maybe you see success there. The CBS article compared it to Isaac Paredes. So maybe you catch lightning in a bottle again. And Woo Suk Go has had a heck of a time in spring training and in Double-A this season. So it's for, I would say, more lottery tickets than players that, say, the White Sox got for Dylan Cease. They were getting legitimate prospects. I think in this case, the Marlins got more like borderline top 10 prospects in the Padres organization. Now the Padres have a very good farm system, and this is a AJ Preller W. He's always good at trading away the right guys. It feels like. So I'm not saying this is like a loss for the Marlins. I know it's a loss for the fans, and I don't love quitting on the season on May 3rd. But I think you got a nice little haul for Arráez. And I made the point on the Twitter that if you're Peter Bendix and you are looking at the next Marlins World Series and you're imagining the banner, and by the way, they have the same number of banners as the Phillies. If you're imagining that third banner and you're imagining that team photo under the banner, Luis Arráez is not in that team photo. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think my main issue with this deal, though, is that they traded Arráez when he wasn't at his peak value. Now, I'm not saying Arráez was necessarily having a bad season. He was hitting 299 at the time. But for the two-time defending batting champion, 299 is a down year for him. And I think they got a diminished return for him than what they could have gotten if they, say he heated up in June and he's hitting closer to 320 in June or in July. They probably could have gotten a better return. And it's not like Arráez is necessarily a rental. He has one more year left on his deal. Also, the Marlins are paying down his salary to the league minimum. So that's the other thing with this deal that kind of bothers me. That being said, I think their return is all right. You know, Go had a pretty solid run in the KBO, actually really good considering the run environment there. 3.18 ERA and 139 saves over 7 seasons. Saved as many as 42 as a 23-year-old in 2022. So he's young, and yes, he's in the minors right now, but I think he can be good in the majors. He was in consideration for the Padres closer role during spring training when he signed. And the other guys they got, Head is young. He's a speedy outfielder. I think he'll turn into a nice player. There's a reason he was a first rounder. I think the Marlins got a fine return, but I think, Bendick said that part of the reason why they did this deal is because they didn't think they could get another one like it in the months down the line. Now, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think, Arraez was just heating up. Now, imagine if you let him heat up and maybe, the Marlins keep struggling, you probably get a better return than this. The other thing that was noteworthy, I think, is a reporter asked, I believe it was Andy Slater who asked this. They asked Bendix if he thinks Jazz Chisholm will be on the roster at the end of the year, and he didn't really give an answer to that. What do you guys think? The Marlins clearly are not in contention this year. What do you see happening with guys like Jazz Chisholm or Jake Berger or Jesus Luzardo? How different will this team look at the end of July compared to what they look right now?
I think the team's going to look vastly different. But I'm not even going to say by the trade deadline. I'm going to say by mid-July. I think this team is going to be a full shell of what it is even right now. Because we've been hearing a ton of talk about other guys potentially getting dealt, including one Jazz Chisholm, which I think is one of the most interesting pieces that they could trade, given his positional utility and his history over the last little bit. Although I will say, if they decide to trade guys like Sandy Alcantara or Jake Berger, that's going to be very interesting to watch going forward.
I don't think Berger gets moved. He has too many years of control left. And I think Berger is okay. Follow me here. Arráez is the better player and the more valuable player right now. Berger is a more archetypal player that you build around. Arráez is sort of the one-of-one type player that I don't know if he's necessarily in your plans every single time when you're building a team. And it's sort of the I'm going to call it the Kevin Martin role. So NBA, Kevin Martin was a 20-point per game guy. Kmart never was on a good team because he was always the leading scorer. Which it's nice you have a guy that's scoring 20 points a game and will get you 20 points just about every single night. But his skill set is not necessarily conducive to winning necessarily. Now, not saying Arráez isn't entirely the contact approach is obviously great, but the well-roundedness of Arraez's game doesn't exactly help. Berger is making some improvements defensively, and he plays third and can play first as well. Arráez is barely qualified to play second. The Padres are going to DH him a lot. But for Jazz, he's just over 3 years of service time. Brian De La Cruz, 2 years of service time. Jesus Sanchez, 2 years of service time. Nick Gordon, 2 years of service time. And where is... Oh, Jake Berger's hurt. Jake Berger only has 1 year of service time. He's going to get his second year this year. I think he's a guy that's going to be in the Marlins organization for quite a long time. Jazz, probably not quite as much because he's already into his arbitration years coming up. So I think Jazz could be the next one moved. This is the Rays shtick is you move guys in their arb years because they start getting more and more expensive. And Peter Bendix coming over from the Rays, I think Jazz could be on the move very soon. I think Brian De La Cruz could be on the move next season. And Jake Berger is going to be around for a couple more years. With the pitching, it's screwy with all the injuries, but you have Sandy, Braxton Garrett, Jesus Luzardo, and Yuri Perez all on the IL right now. Sandy probably goes somewhere when he's healthy. Braxton Garrett's in his first year of service time, is currently in his second year of service time, and then Luzardo probably gets traded here soon. Perez, he's going to be around for a long time. So if you're buying Marlins jerseys, buy Perez and Berger.
Well, the thing is, the Marlins also, you got to look back at their history, and they've filtered through a lot of players. They've had so many stars, it feels like. They've had, in the 90s, they had guys like Moises Alou, Kevin Brown, Al Leiter, Gary Sheffield. For a week, they had Mike Piazza. That's the thing, though. They had Mike Piazza for a week, and he was gone. That was also the year after they won the World Series. In 2003, it was a similar deal. And then eventually you saw guys like Miguel Cabrera and Dontrelle Willis get dealt. And then Hanley Ramirez gets dealt in 2012. And, there was that offseason where they finally they got Jose Reyes and Mark Burley. And if you wouldn't believe it, the next year, neither of them were on the team. So the Marlins don't have a great reputation of retention. I mean, look, they gave Giancarlo Stanton that record-setting contract and traded him a few years later after he won MVP. So I don't know you don't think of guys who are Marlins for life. Even Mr. Marlin, Jeff Conine, he got traded, and then he came back, and they let him go again. So, the tough part is with a guy like Jazz Chisholm, who I think they envisioned him being a franchise player, but he hasn't really stayed healthy. That's the issue. He's an incredibly talented player. I love watching Jazz play. It's just I don't see him sticking around long term because of his health issues. So he's probably going to get dealt. I can see him getting dealt this summer. Luzardo, I think, if he's healthy, granted, he has an elbow problem, so kind of a risky move there. I don't know if he gets moved. Perez probably sticks around a bit longer, but like I said, the Marlins they don't have a reputation of having lifetime Marlins necessarily. So I can't, I think it's going to be a process here. They haven't won a World Series in 2 decades. They hadn't made the playoffs in a full season since 2003 entering last year. It's Marlins fans. I know Marlins fans exist, by the way. There are a few of them, but just buckle up. This is going to be another rebuild. I'm going to lay it out there right now. Any other thoughts on the Marlins before we move on?
Yeah, one issue with the Marlins is the farm system is decrepit, and also the team last year.
Yes.
Yeah, and the team last year, frankly, overperformed. This is a 2022 New York Giants situation. This is a team that played above its skis and was not really a playoff team. I know they made the playoffs. I know they had the playoff games at Citizens Bank Park. I know. I remember why I did not actually watch those games because the Phillies just dominated, but you get the point. I know, but they were not a playoff caliber team. They did not have the depth of a playoff team. They did not have even the star power of a playoff team. So I am okay with the idea of them entering a rebuild. I was lower on them this season. I picked the Mets to finish ahead of them.
Same. Yeah.
I was much more interested in watching the Nationals than the Marlins. Now, I thought the Marlins would be better than the Nationals, but that obviously hasn't panned out. But the Nationals are a more entertaining product. I knew that. So the Marlins, the pitching, I think can be fine, but you don't have enough. You don't have enough good Major League Baseball players to be a playoff team. Sorry. And I think it's okay that Peter Bendix is kind of pulling the plug here. Now, is it early? Yes. Is it bad for the fans? Yes, 100%. And you're going to have some crazy low attendance. Now, granted, the Marlins do that anyways, but you're going to have some crazy low attendance because no one's going to want to show up to these games when you're trading all your players. Absolutely. But I think this is something that has to be done. You have to get rid of, you have to trade assets to get, future assets. This is, to use another football analogy, this is what Ryan Poles did with the Bears. yeah, you got rid of some bad contracts and you took on some really bad money. But now that's when you go get a Keenan Allen. That's when you go start building your dream team around Caleb Williams. And then when you pay Caleb Williams, and you pay Rome Odunze, and you pay their defensive players that I'm blanking on right now, but you eventually pay people. Oh, they got Sweat from Washington. Eventually, you have good players, but Chicago wouldn't be in that situation if they didn't tear it down in the first place.
Yeah, and this the thing goes that yes, rebuilds are painful. I watched the Mets sort of start to rebuild last year, and I know their fans are already pining for them to rebuild because they're slumping a little bit. But rebuilds can be long, and sometimes there is no end in sight. And really, with the Marlins, I don't know if there is an end in sight. Or no, you speak to that too. I mean, to Splash's point though, the Marlins way overachieved last year.
Yeah,
they were 33-14 in one-run games. I know I've kind of beat that horse to death, but like that's just not sustainable. A, playing 47 one-run games, and B, winning 33 of them. And also, look, even when they were 53-39 the first half last year, they had a negative run differential. And then they were 8 games under in the second half. So the writing was kind of on the wall. They weren't going to make the playoffs again this year. I just didn't expect this regression to hit them this badly.
Fair.
Mm-hmm. And that's like what is interesting, because like, speaking of someone who has gone through rebuild after rebuild after rebuild, 21-year drought, ring a bell. It gets painful as a fan to watch, especially when like you bought jerseys, right, for these players, for guys like, on our end, like, well, let's just say on the CL end, guys like Felix, guys like Justin Smoke, guys like Cliff Lee, even, and then just saying gone, it hurts a lot. And then now for the Marlins fans, like, you're being told 1 month after being told that, again, remember, baseball's a marathon, not a sprint. We still have a long way to go. Being told 1 month in that, the season's a wash, send it all away, it hurts. Not just say it's gotta hurt. We know it hurts. And now, like, that you're going to be good. It may get better in the long run, but there's one thing with rebuilds that's always a question mark, and that is it doesn't always work. Mm-hmm. We have seen it time and time again that teams will go through rebuilds, and it won't result in really anything.
Look at the White Sox.
Exactly. Look at the White Sox.
Or the Tigers right now.
Look at the Tigers right now. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the Tigers got Riley Green. That's a win.
Okay,
yes, the Tigers did all right with the draft, but at the same time, they haven't made the playoffs since, heck, their last playoff games came my freshman year of high school.
Man, during the Mr. I era. But
exactly.
Anyway, regardless, it's tough. It is tough to go through rebuilds, and it's even harder to keep fans' goodwill during a rebuild. That's the main thing they're going to have to worry about, I think.
And it's, baseball especially, rebuilding is, I think, easily the most difficult because, it's the 162 game season. It's, the going through the minor leagues. What if guys get hurt? I've seen, God, I'm just thinking about back when the Mets, after they traded R.A. Dickey, like during that era. Yes. So the Dickey deal, though, they got Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard, who are the battery made of their only World Series win in the only World Series win in the last 2 decades, because they did win a World Series game against the Yankees in 2000. But, you got to look. People talk about tanking and all this stuff. Tanking in baseball just doesn't always work for a reason. I remember.
They also just put it in the draft lottery, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
So that's can't even take anymore for number 1.
Yeah. So I remember in 2012, the Mets took Gavin Cecchini. The next year, they took Dom Smith. Neither of those guys materialized too much. And those were like the highest the Mets picked in the draft back then. And then I guess in 2018, number 6, they took Jared Kelenic, which turned into Edwin Diaz. All right, it was fine. But I've seen enough times where these high draft picks don't pan out to know that tanking is just rebuilding is such a tough process that I really don't know what's next for the Marlins. It feels like they've been in this constant rebuild stage for the last 2 decades. And I don't have a conscious memory of a dominant Marlins team. That's the thing. They won the World Series in 2003. I was 3 years old when that happened, and I obviously do not remember watching it. I don't even know if my siblings
playoffs in 2020.
That was the pandemic season, though.
Exactly.
That was like
they did win a series. They won a playoff.
They won a series, yes, but like
and then got
the 2020 season. I mean, man. Okay, I'll be completely honest. The 2020 season is one of those things where like I forget so much happened
because it still feels like a fever
dream. It felt like a fever dream. It was a 60-game season. All right. But anyway,
Kyle Lewis was the American League Rookie of the Year.
Kyle Lewis was Rookie of the Year. Jose Abreu won MVP. DJ LeMahieu won his second batting title. It was a crazy.
I just
season.
realized, with that
Ozuna won 2 legs of the Triple Crown.
Jose, with what you just said there at that point, the reigning is like the American League Rookie of the Year now is barely holding on to a job, and the MVP from that year is now in the minor leagues.
He's in the Florida Complex League right now. Yes.
Exactly. Like, dang, that just feels so weird to say. Which, by the way, I really do hope that Abreu gets his stuff together.
Oh yeah, I hope he gets his swing back
because he's so good.
And also, like, I know this wasn't necessarily what we planned on here, but I really hope that Abreu finds a swing because he acknowledged his struggles.
Exactly.
He's willing to accept that outright assignment.
That's one of the reasons why, like, even though he's an Astro, I'm very much rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he actually had the smarts and at least the humility and humbleness to acknowledge something isn't working. Especially, I want to get this fixed.
Mm-hmm. And like we were saying, a former MVP, a guy who's in his late 30s getting sent to the minors, it's not easy, but he's willing to accept like that might be the path to finding himself again. But anyways,
Alek Manoah wasn't reporting to AAA last year, so.
Yeah, no. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. We were talking about a struggling team like the Marlins. Let's go to a team that has been on fire. The Minnesota Twins rattled off a 12-game winning streak, which just got stopped when they lost to the Red Sox on Sunday afternoon. This team, I think we all had them winning the AL Central coming into the season. They're off to a dreadful start. Then they fire off this winning streak, and they're still kind of beat up. They're missing a couple of key guys like Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton. What do you guys make of the Twins? Is this sustainable? Are they going to take back that AL Central crown?
7 of the games were against the White Sox. I will point that out.
I was about to bring up immediately.
It is true, yes.
I will say impressive that you did sweep a team back-to-back times. That doesn't happen often. Going 7-0 against a team is very hard to do, especially in baseball. Taking 2 out of 3 from Boston's impressive. I'll say that. Boston can pitch, man. Andrew Bailey for president. And they swept the Angels. Okay, I'm not exactly moved. However, I do think this was more of a course correction because they had a pretty tough schedule to start this. So Kansas City, good. Milwaukee, good. Cleveland, good. Dodgers, good. Detroit, competent. Orioles in Camden Yards, good. Detroit again, competent. So you finally get like that easier stretch of games, the White Sox, the Angels, and then you take 2 out of 3 against Boston. So you have a big 4-game series against Seattle coming up. I would have high confidence in Minnesota if they take 2 out of 4. If they take 2 out of 4, I think your winning streak is just a course correction. Not yes, this team is now red hot. Just more of a course correction because they weren't as bad as 7-12 when they started the winning streak. They're not that bad, but they also aren't 12-0 good. So take 2 out of 4 in Seattle or against Seattle, and then you move on to Toronto, New York, and you're back into the gauntlet. You have Washington in a couple weeks. That's probably your easiest series. You have the Texas and Kansas City at the end of the month. So as your homestand, there are chances to win games. Minnesota will have to do better against like competent teams. Going 12-0 against really bad, 10-0 against really bad teams, and then 2-1 against Boston is not exactly a sustainable method of winning like playoff games, for example. But hey, progress. They're back in the wins column.
Yeah, like it's the thing is, I completely echo your sentiment, especially at the beginning there, Splash, that you take a look at the games they have played over this stretch, and they've played teams that have a combined record of under 500. Like the only team that they have played that's been above 500 over this stretch was the Boston Red Sox. And you know what? Good on them for beating the Red Sox. You know, they're not an easy team to get to beat, but also they're not the best either. They are going to have a test against my Mariners right now. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how well they do, because I'm taking a look at some of the stats, right? And they're not blowing anybody away, really. Like, honestly, the best stat that I'm looking at here, I'm using StatViews for this, is right now the most interesting one is their strikeout pitching ones, because their pitching has been what I think has been carrying them. Right now, they have had pretty darn good pitching overall, where right now they are actually second in all of baseball in strikeouts at 324 so far as a team. Like, that's impressive. The problem with it, though, is that every time I had to explain this to a family member, and you know what? Honestly, the more I explained it, the more I started to understand it too, is that strikeouts are good, but they're not sustainable. If that makes sense. And let me explain what I mean by that. A lot of times right now, we talk a lot about pitch efficiency for starting pitchers, right? That you don't want to throw as many pitches in an inning. The less pitches you throw, the better, because that means you can go deeper into games. But strikeouts require at the very minimum 3 pitches. And that's very rare when it's only a 3-pitch thing. In fact, doing it 3 times in a row is one of the most rare things in all of baseball in the immaculate inning. But the more pitches you throw, the deeper you get into your pen. And the deeper you get into your pen, the more tired and worn out you get. So I'm not saying that strikeout number is bad. Again, they're really good at strikeouts, and they've also been really good at limiting walks. So here's the big thing to consider. With this team, if they can just get the offense going a little bit more where they're at, this team can be very good. But they have to keep relying on their pitching more and more, kind of like my Mariners as well. Their pitching has been incredible, but the hitting is starting to come back around. The problem right now that I see overall is back to what I said at the very beginning of this, that right now, this stretch, like you said, it was a course correction here. This stretch was against teams that were objectively not very good in the Angels and the White Sox. If they do well against Seattle, then maybe they are for real. But right now, with how Seattle's playing, it's going to be close. It's going to be interesting because Seattle's pitching matches up really well against Minnesota's offense right now. It basically just comes down to whether or not Seattle's offense can take advantage of the pitching that Minnesota is going to be providing. It's going to be a good matchup. I think that the Twins are good. I don't think that they are the best. Heck, I don't honestly even think they're the best team in the AL Central. I think right now, like if I had to put money on one team to be the best team in the Central, probably say the Guardians here. Also, by the way, shout out to the Guardians here. Just brought up my boy Kyle Manzardo, go Cougs, and go Portland Pickles. Yeah, he's the very first ever Portland Pickle to ever make the major leagues.
That's quite an accomplishment.
That is an accomplishment. That's pretty cool,
so,
actually.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no. So the Twins have a big stretch ahead of them, but here's the big thing, like you were bringing up a second ago here, is that right now the Twins have a chance to really show off because they still don't have some of their star players. Byron Buxton is hurt. Royce Lewis is hurt. They still have guys coming. They just got back Johan Duran. Like, if they can put it all together and keep on this streak, they are going to be massive, and they could take the division.
You know, I want to give a shout out to Ryan Jeffers. I over the offseason, I was watching a Giraffe Neck Mark video, and he ranked Jeffers pretty high, and I'm like, whoa, that's aggressive. And then Jeffers has backed that up. He has a 938 OPS right now, 167 OPS plus. He's been great. He mashes. Good job, Minnesota. You got another catcher DH type that mashes. Max Kepler's been very good. Jose Miranda's been all right. Willie Castro, popular award pick for us, has been pretty good defensively. Edouard Julien, King Julien, is up to his usual tricks with a 128 OPS plus. It would be great. It would be lovely. It would be phenomenal if Royce Lewis or Byron Buxton or Carlos Correa were in the lineup consistently.
Oh yeah, thank you for bringing up Correa. I forgot about him even.
That's the thing.
One of them, please, just one of them be healthy, man.
That's the thing is Correa, well, he wasn't producing when he got hurt. and he hasn't necessarily been himself since he came back. Like you're saying, though, Jeffers has been fantastic. 938 OPS. He's 6 homers, 10 doubles, 22 RBIs, leads the team. But Max Kepler, I think, has really been the spark plug they were missing since coming off the IL. He's 16 for 38 with 2 homers and 11 RBIs. So that's a 438 clip. Really good numbers there. His overall OPS is 812. His OPS plus is 134, only behind Jeffers. And Julian, it's weird because Julian has almost been like a 3 true outcomes type of player. And I don't know if that's intended because he isn't necessarily like a pure power guy. He hit 16 homers last year. All right, that's solid, but that's not necessarily like, it doesn't jump off the page necessarily. This year, first of all, his fly ball rate is 42.9%. That's insane. His line drive rate is also only 12.7%.
Not good.
I don't know if either of those numbers are sustainable. It honestly makes me wonder what it tells you about him as a player. But, he has 7 homers, but he also is walking at a 14.6% rate. It's very strong again.
Do not read the strikeout rate. Please.
I was about to say he struck out in exactly 1/3 of his at-bats so far. Or 1/3 of his plate. 1/3 of his plate appearances. That's what I meant. 41 times in 123 plate appearances. Hey, that number is dwarfed by some of the numbers you're seeing in the National League. So it's not. It doesn't even lead the AL. But it's worth noting though that he's kind of had a 3 true outcomes season. He leads the team in homers. He also leads the team in walks and in strikeouts. So also Trevor Larnach has had limited plate appearances, only 48, but he has a 381 average and a 1,009 OPS. And on the pitching side, they just got Yohan Duran back. They still have Griffin Jacks, who I think did a solid job filling in for Duran. So I think, in my head, the Twins were the most well-rounded team in the AL Central. And I still want to stand by that. The AL Central has just been way better than we all expected. The Tigers have been all right. I know they just got swept this weekend. The Royals have exceeded expectations in my book. The Guardians have way exceeded expectations. So I think to your guys' point, we got to see what the Twins can do against those better teams. Because, yes, good teams need to beat up on the bad teams, but you're not going to get to face the White Sox every weekend. So I'm curious to see what they do against the Mariners and going forward when they face their stronger opponents. So any other thoughts on the Twins?
Shout out to World Baseball Classic legend Edouard Julien, King Julien. Again, you said leading the team in homers, but in his last 5 games has a slugging rating of 0.071.
Not ideal.
He'll be kind of streaky.
No, just a little bit.
He's a Canadian Twin, and he rakes.
He does.
Yes, he does. Just like his compatriot Justin Morneau.
Yes.
Former MVP, by the way.
AL MVP and 2008 Home Run Derby champion.
Also, shout out to another former Canadian amazing player, Michael Saunders, the Condor.
Also, shout out to James Paxton, I guess.
Yes, true.
He looked good against the Braves lineup yesterday. So, what can I say?
I like that James Paxton's still pitching. Like, the dude's gone through so many injuries. Awesome. The fact that he's still around makes me happy.
Yeah, his first ever start against the Braves last year, which is crazy because he's been around like 11 years. So I'm old.
You're saying that. I remember Paxton's debut. My dude, I was legitimately the day that he made his Major League debut, I was riding the Ferris wheel on Seattle's pier.
Wow.
And
I was like too.
God, yeah, you can't say you're old when I'm over here being 30.
I remember having him in MLB The Show when he was a minor leaguer in MLB The Show franchise mode. MLB 13, I'd like to say. He was an A potential. But anyways, we do have one last team we want to talk about real quick. And I know we all entered the year with our very, very low expectations for them, but the Oakland Athletics are actually doing a good job hanging in there so far. They're 17 and 18. They're not too far out in the. It's a weird AL West race where the Astros, who 2 of us picked to make the World Series, they are currently tied for last place with the Angels, which I don't think anyone had on their bingo card this year. And then you have the A's, who are only 2.5 back. The reigning World Series champion Rangers have been up and down. They're a half game back of the division leading Mariners. Guys, the A's, I mean, I think there's reasons to be excited here. I'm not, they're not world beaters, but what do you guys have to say about Oakland?
I feel like right now this is like my dreamland at this point, where the Astros are in last place, the Mariners are in first, and the Athletics are putting a big finger towards their owner here, and the fans are having a good time. I feel like this is my dreamland.
Okay,
it's straight out of Major League.
Okay. Yes. Darn it, Mac! You stole my line. The actual best orientation for the division is the A's, then the Mariners, then the Astros, then the Angels, and the Rangers. If you understand that, you are a superior ball knowledge knower. But yeah, the A's, Mark Kotze has the gang playing pretty well. This is a team that sent down Estuary Ruiz, and we're all like, what the heck? And now Estuary Ruiz is back, and he's hitting the baseball. So props to them. Zach Geloff is on the IL, but he had been struggling. And yes, producer Jack, that's exactly what I did. JJ Bleday, shout out to Narrative Ball on Twitter, the biggest JJ Bleday fan in history. He's been very good. Brent Rooker, it might not be hitting 300 like the A's stadium render says he will be, but he is raking right now. The Abraham Toros of the world, raking. Tyler Nevin of the world, raking.
Tyler Nevin, yeah, he's been a pleasant surprise for sure.
Ballers. Another McCann catcher, Kyle McCann, this time has an OPS above 1,000. Granted, it's only 28 plate appearances, but the man we're all here to talk about is Mason Miller. He is absolutely unbelievable. He is pure, unadulterated filth. He should be illegal in 17 countries and several states. When you watch him on TV, it should be an NC-17 rating. This man makes grown hitters, grown future Hall of Famers like Aaron Judge and Juan Soto look like little children. He is just pumping 102, pumping 103, and it works for him because he's not like a starter throwing 90 pitches. A 1.26 ERA. He had a negative FIP. He has a negative FIP. I knew this was a thing because I had a particularly dominant closer in MLB The Show, but a negative FIP. A negative FIP. And also the rest of the bullpen has been pretty good. Lucas Urseg has a 198 ERA plus. Michael Kelly has been very good. Austin Adams has been very good. And the rotation, Paul Blackburn is, doing Paul Blackburn things. The rest of the rotation, not great. I have some concerns about the sustainability, but I do not have any concerns with Mason Miller. So
Mason Miller,
he's not going to get traded because the A's have him under wraps for a while.
Yeah, I mean, like Mason Miller, as much as I think I still think there's a chance he gets traded just because the owner wants to not win ball games, potentially. But at the same time, like, how do you not love exactly what he's doing? To quote Moneyball, how can you not be romantic about baseball? Mason Miller is absolutely filthy. And he just came out of nowhere. Like, no one was saying his name at the beginning of the year, and now everybody is everyone is having fun with Miller at this point. And I think he's really giving Oakland something to cheer about, which is something they really need, as well as, like, I mean, the Oakland Ballers need something to also help out with the hype. They can't be putting it all on their own shoulders. So no, like, I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that the A's are playing this well. Like, again, it's really just another testament to that Oakland likes to fight. Oakland likes to keep going and doesn't let it doesn't let their own talent even get in their own way. They are playing exceptional baseball despite all the other conditions they're trying to work through right now, including their own ownership at this point. So legitimately, yeah, go A's. I want to see them do well. So I want to see them beat the Mariners? Absolutely not. But I can still root for them on other times.
Yeah. And when I mentioned it earlier, I mean, this feels like a major league scenario where, the A's, it seems like they're doing everything they can to, they've been trading away their pieces. They've been, losing like crazy. There's rumors they're going to move. Here we are. They're, yes, it's early May, but they have a chance right now. I'm just saying their chances aren't zero. Their playoff odds have tripled from about 1% to 3%. And Mason Miller, I'm so happy for Mason Miller. I was reading about his story in The Athletic. He was a Division III guy who was struggling mightily. He found out he had diabetes. He finally got treatment for it. And then when he got healthy, he balled out. And, the A's took a chance on him. He had injuries again last year, but now that they've made him the closer, I mean, his average fastball velocity is 100.7. And you're probably wondering, oh my God, great. He averages triple digits on his fastball. Does he throw any secondary pitches? His slider is fantastic too. 48.6% whiff rate on that pitch as well. And he throws it 80. It's an average velocity of 87.4, which is a significant difference, which I think is a good thing. 53.7% strikeout rate. His ERA 1.26 is sparkling. How about that 0.80 expected ERA or that negative FIP? So yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about Oakland. And by the way, I believe the sixth best ERA. The bullpen unit, that is, they have the sixth best ERA in the majors at 3.04. So lots of reasons to be excited there. Their offense, who knows? Brent Rooker's hitting the ball very hard. I think Lawrence Butler is going to turn into a pretty solid player. Shea Langoliers is hitting for power at least. So I'm not saying that the A's are going to win the division or make the playoffs or anything, but it's a fun scenario to imagine.
The A's right now are third in major leagues in homers at 44.
Yeah, I mean, they're hitting for power. I'll give them that much.
Shout out to the A's. They always find these diamond in the rough types, and sometimes you wonder, how is a team this poorly run and actually consistently poorly run like this? How do they win World Series like they do? They have an incredible way of finding star level talent, and then they trade them away, or Reggie Jacksons of the world become more famous for other teams. So it's just uncanny how the A's just cycle after cycle after cycle get superstar level Hall. Now, I don't think they have any Hall of Famers on the team as of right now, but they just have
Hall of Famer. Let's go.
an incredible cycle of talent. Shea Langoliers and Kyle Muller, future Hall of Famers.
True.
I will say, I know that the Moneyball 2002 A's get a lot of the fame for what they did, that 20-game winning streak, and it was a huge deal the way they won. But I always think to the 2012 A's, which started being assembled shortly after that Moneyball movie got released. And, that was a team, everyone was saying the A's, they're just trying to move to San Jose. So they traded away Andrew Bailey and Trevor Cahill and Gio Gonzalez. I think they may have sent someone else away during that whole rebuild. So they traded Holiday.
Yeah, that was a couple years.
They traded away Holiday in 2009 after they got him for Carlos Gonzalez and Houston Street. By the way, that's a trade I'm sure Oakland fans would like to forget. But I remember that offseason they got Josh Reddick in return. Tommy Malone actually turned into a solid player. Jared Parker, Colin Cowgill, shout out Mets legend, and they signed Cespedes that offseason. I remember. That A's team had no expectations, and they won 94 games and won the division. So anything is possible. Well, yeah. Then they had to face Verlander, which they've never been able to beat him. But
right.
Yeah, so I think we all hope the A's continue to succeed. They've been a great story so far. But anyways, it is now time for everyone's favorite segment every week, and that is trivia. This week, Splash has the pleasure of hosting this segment, so Splash, take it away.
That I do. We have an extra special trivia. As the host, usually you're not allowed to win the trivia, but today there is a chance that I win the trivia. Let me explain. So I have been compiling research for a YouTube video determining the best infield in the history of Major League Baseball. I compiled the research for 2023, and none of those teams are the best infield in MLB history. However, I have all the numbers. I have all the wars. Alex and Mac, you guys will go back and forth naming teams. You each get 10 teams, and whoever has the highest point total left wins. However, I control the 10 teams remaining, so if you really suck at this, I can win. So I don't get to choose any teams because I obviously know the list, but you guys go back and forth choosing teams. So say Alex chooses, the Boston Bruins, and then Mac chooses the Red Wings, and then Alex chooses the Rangers. Whoever has the most points, most accumulated WAR by those infields.
And this is in all of history?
No, this is 2023 only.
Oh, okay.
2023 only. So whoever accumulates the most WAR wins the game. Any questions?
Okay, so we're just going to be basically drafting teams.
Yes, you're drafting teams, and the 10 leftover teams go to me. So be careful. Don't choose bad teams.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And this is so infield is first base, second base, third base, shortstop, and baseball. This is Baseball Reference WAR, and they have this is like prorated. There's like some. I'll explain it more in the video, but it's like a prorated WAR. It's not like say a player that plays infield and outfield, right? You might be super productive in the outfield, like inexplicably productive in the outfield and suck in the infield. Well, if you're have an even time split, you're gonna have an even WAR split. So I'll explain another time. But
okay.
Producer Jack, please pick Alex or Mac to go first.
Dang, I can't believe it's completely now.
It is totally random.
Hey,
all right, Alex, you will make the first.
Alex
select.
is going first.
Oh man, so 2023 infield WAR.
Yes.
This is like, okay, I've already been kind of like thinking, I'm looking at my monitor. I'm not looking at any stats. I'm just looking at a list of all the teams just so I can see them.
Okay.
No, legitimately. It's just because it's like, okay, well, I want to have all of them at my disposal, right? I feel like that's smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my first pick is going to be the Braves.
The Atlanta Braves.
The Atlanta Braves
Reasonable pick there. All right.
Yeah, having, again, first base, second base, shortstop, third, all amazing players. So,
all right, Mac.
Okay. All right, that threw a wrench into my plan.
Really? You thought I wasn't going to take Braves first?
Actually, I think I might have a solid pick here. Okay. I highly doubt they have more WAR than the Braves, but I'm going with the Texas Rangers.
All right, Mac takes the Rangers. I will not update you on the scores.
Yep, no worries.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. My next pick here. There's a couple of teams that are coming to mind here, but I think, for positional players is the main thing. Well, infielders. Yeah. And they had a few really good ones, I think. Actually, that's also another option here. This is actually a much tougher decision than I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Having Nolan Arenado, having Goldie, and then a myriad of different players that played in second and short. I think that could be well.
All right,
interesting. I am going to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I was going to be my next pick. I was actually going to give a little shout out to Jack there on that one, but
all right. Alex, Mac takes the Dodgers.
Yeah, he takes the Dodgers, understandably so. Okay. So we keep going down. I'm going to go with the next team here is one that, again, has some really good pieces around the infield, although they're not always playing amazingly. I'm going to go with the Blue Jays.
Right. The Blue Jays are off the board. Mac.
I am going to go with the Cubs.
Yeah, that was my next.
I know they had great defense up the middle.
Can neither confirm nor deny that. Alex, round 4.
Round 4, my next pick. Okay. I'm going to go. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out whether or not he's classified as an infielder or outfielder. I want to say he's classified as an infielder. That's Ketel Marte here for this. And that would be for the Diamondbacks because they still have Christian Walker. They would have Ketel Marte. They have some other good players around that infield. I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks.
Okay, Alex takes the Diamondbacks. Round 4, Mac.
I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles.
All right, round 5, Alex.
All right. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's the Astros.
All right.
Mac. Okay. Oh, man. I have to start doing more thinking. I feel like the infield was this team's strength, so to speak. So I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's a good pick.
Alex.
I'm going to go with the heavy, they had some good players that played pretty well in the infield, including one that is now re-becoming amazing, and that is the Cincinnati Reds.
All right, Cincinnati, off the board. Mac, pick 6.
I am going to go with the Tampa Bay Rays.
All right. Alex.
All right. What pick number are we on?
We are on number 7.
Number 7? Okay, I'm going to take my Mariners then.
All right.
They still had, Type played solid baseball. Second base was an enigma, but they still did decently well.
We will respect Colton Wong.
No, we will not.
I know that J.P. Crawford was very good at shortstop.
J.P. Crawford is a very good shortstop. I love him.
All right.
So we will also respect Eugenio Suarez in this podcast.
Suarez, yeah, that's right. All right. Oh, man, I have to do some thinking again. Trying to remember what teams are off the board too.
Yeah, that's the hard part as well. I know what my next pick is going to be if it's still around.
No, I'm going to go. This might be a risk here. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies.
The Titan Phils.
Yep, that's an idea. Not the one I was thinking of. I don't think this team was taken. Please tell me if I'm wrong. The Guardians?
Guardians are good to go. Mac.
I'm going to go with the Miami Marlins.
All right. Alex, you have 2 picks remaining.
Yep. All right. For mine, then, I'm going to go with one that I know one of the players did incredibly well. And the rest of the team, there were some good pieces around at that point. They could have made it work. I'm going to go with the Royals.
Royals. Alex.
I considered them for a second. I'm trying to remember. I know this infield is carried by one player in this category. I'm going to go with the Pirates.
The Irate Pirates. All right, 1 pick remaining for both of you.
Yeah. I think with my final pick, I think, have the Yankees been taken yet?
They have not.
I'm going to take the Yankees then.
All right, Alex.
Anthony Volpe and Anthony Rizzo.
Ends his day with the Yankees. All right, Mac, your final selection.
Gotta do some thinking here. It's tough. I am going to go with. You know what? I know that this team had one star level infielder, so I'm going with Francisco Lindor's New York Mets.
All right.
I mean, you also have, Pete Alonso.
Yeah, well, Alonso, it's tough because first basemen don't normally accrue that much WAR.
That's a good point. All right. I'm compiling the scores. By the way, getting the Rays was pretty plucky of you in the 6th round because they were tied for 2nd.
Oh, nice.
So here we go. All right.
I know ball
Alex,
sometimes.
Your total is, if I could correctly do this, your total is 102.5.
Okay.
Average 10.25 WAR per team.
That's solid. That's really solid.
Yeah. All right. Mac, your score. 120.
Whoa!
Yo!
I
didn't realize I was going by that much. Wait,
so
Scott,
having
what was your score then?
I'm calculating that. Texas was number 1 at 19.7.
Yeah, I
The
figured.
Rays and Braves tied at 19.2. So you got really good value on the Rays there in the 6th round. Dodgers were 13.8, but my score, not as good as yours because I only had one team over 10. So I only had a 45.5.
Okay, yeah, well, so we didn't completely bomb it.
Right. I got the White Sox, the Rangers, and the Tigers, and the A's, and the Angels.
Well, because the Rangers had two guys in their middle infield finish as finalists for the MVP award. So,
and Josh Young was pretty good at third.
Young, and then Nathaniel Lowe was a pretty good defensive first baseman. So it all makes sense. I mean, there's a reason they won the World Series.
Yes. Worst picks: Royals 5.5 and the Marlins 5.9. You could have had the Twins 10.4. That was the best team I had, or the Nationals at 8.3.
Yeah, Twins was one I was considering. What was each of our worst picks?
Your worst pick was the Royals 5.5, and
mine was the Marlins
at 5.9. Honestly, the worst value pick was probably the Cardinals. They only had 8. That was your second pick. There were
it's.
So I get the reasoning, but there are quite a few teams that were preferable.
Well, because Arenado and Goldschmidt both had down years, so it's like
that's
tough. But like I get it, like they do have two superstars at the corner infield, which should be the best corner infield combo in baseball. They just haven't been the last couple of years.
I mean, I think I would put the Braves corner infield ahead of
not right now. We are
not currently.
Not currently, but I think just in pure talent wise, like they should be.
I mean, the thing is that prime Arenado and prime Goldschmidt were about as good as anyone else at their position. So,
I mean, I will pull back the curtain. That prime Arenado and Goldschmidt, they are second in my sample. So I have data since 1991. That 2022 Cardinals is second.
Oh,
that team. I mean, because Goldschmidt won MVP, and I believe Arenado got
third.
Yeah, it's insane. It's just wild though, because Goldschmidt, it felt like every year he was in Arizona was an MVP candidate, but never actually won one. Mm-hmm. And now, like he's in St. Louis and he's won an MVP. I wonder one day, because I know he's really fallen off the last couple of years, but I wonder if Goldschmidt will make the Hall of Fame. I think he's had a fantastic career. I hope he does make the Hall of Fame.
Or a Cardinal.
That's going to be tough. That's the thing. It's going to be like, I don't know if this is the best comparison, but like Miguel Cabrera, when he gets to Cooperstown, will he go in as a Marlin? He won a World Series with the Marlins, but he also won 2 MVPs and a Triple Crown and 3 batting titles with the Tigers.
Tiger too.
Yeah, he has the individual accolades in Detroit, the World Series ring in Miami. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge, but when we get there, that's probably a discussion for another day. But anyways, it'll be great.
Like picking active players, what hat they wear on their Hall of Fame plaque, like Mookie Betts. I would imagine Dodger.
Oh my God, I don't know. That's the thing.
How many years?
He has a ring with both.
How many years would Freddie have to play for the Dodgers to pick the Dodgers?
Well, I think he'd need to win more than one ring. That's
a good point.
Yeah, valid point. Shout out to our producer Jack. I know he's a Dodgers fan. So, anyways, we're gonna end.
Ranger. Clayton Kershaw.
Seager?
No,
Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw, 100%. Anyways, we're gonna end this show the way we end every single show, which is with the moment to ourselves, 60 seconds or so to talk about whatever the heck is on your mind. So who here wants to go first for this segment? Alex put his hand up first, so Alex, I'll give you the countdown. We will start you in 3, 2, 1, go.
So for me, I know I've talked about this before, but I want to talk about it again for a certain reason. And that is that if you are an athlete or you've been an athlete, there is no better feeling than getting to actually compete. And I got to do that this weekend here when I was in a golf tournament, and my second one ever. It was raining, it was cold, but you know what? I loved it. I loved getting to push myself through it. I even tweaked my knee the day beforehand, and I was scared whether or not I was even going to be able to play. Just loaded up on some Advil, and I was good to go. And on top of it, the reason why I'm talking about it again is this is also the first time I've ever placed in a golf tournament of my 2 go-throughs. I placed in 5th. Which, funny enough, though, if my handicap was one worse, I would have gotten put in the next division, and my score actually would have been enough to win that division. So, you know what, more you know. But overall, no, I love getting to compete. I love getting to do this, and it is truly something that I forget how much I miss until I actually get to do it. And if you're an athlete and you're thinking, man, I can't compete at this level anymore, find a way to do so because it is so reinvigorating.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying at the beginning, I competed this weekend too, and I'm telling you, as a former athlete, it's just so much more fun. First of all, I feel like the expectation, like you don't have as much expectations, which means you can go in with, I think, a bit of a looser mindset, which is why I love competing so much. And I mean, I had a rocky week of training. I was very tired on Sunday morning, but going out there and competing with your friends, it's just fun,
Oh, yeah. Plus, also one thing I didn't get to say during that minute was how much fun it is also to be recognized and win. Like, that was like the basic. Like when I got the email that said that I was in there, that I was in that top 5, I was like, "There's no way." And I looked, I'm like, "Yeah, wow!" My score, which was a net 76, which we take those.
Yes, we do.
There you go. Yeah.
The winner was a net 69, by the way. So very nice.
Very nice.
Splash, do you want to go next or?
Sure.
All right. Your time starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, friends. We are going to address the elephant in the room. That is the Braves-Dodgers series. I know Jeff Passan is a clown and retweeted Alden something's report. But anyways, let me explain. First off, we are throwing out Game 2. It's a Bryce Elder versus Tyler Glasnow start. Please be honest. What were you expecting? The Dodgers were heavy favorites. Game 1, the Braves lost in the 11th inning on the road. Okay, it's a 50-50 game. That's okay. And then Game 3, Shohei Ohtani hits 2 home runs. Max Fried pitched pretty well, allowed 2 home runs. Game 1, Charlie Martin allowed 1 home run, a 2-run shot. So I know it's a sweep, and I know it's a big run differential on the sweep, but most of that came in one game against Bryce Elder. So I do not read too much into that. I think the Braves are fine. There's no panic here. I know they're in a 1-for-5 stretch. They lost 2 out of 3 in Seattle, got swept at Chavez Ravine. Yeah, sure. But it's okay. It'll be okay.
Wow. Your take about the Braves compared to the takes we get in New York sports when any team struggles. My God, that is, I mean, I love New York sports fans. I am one myself, but like, second any team loses, it's panic, panic city.
Like the Knicks, they're gonna drop one game to the Pacers and be like Trey Brunson now.
Yeah, exactly. It's stuff like that.
Oh man.
And trust me, I know the Mets just got swept by the Rays this weekend, and it's all right. Time to fire sale. I mean, look, the only player I'm actually concerned about right now is Pete Alonso. Like, it's driving me insane. But anyways,
Alonso.
No, that will not happen. Not on my watch. Anyway, I'll get started with my time in 3, 2, 1. So, I do want to address one thing that happened this week, and I'm not excusing the Mets' poor play necessarily, because, I mean, look, their offense has not hit. Like I said, Pete Alonso, their cleanup hitter, has not done well in his contract year. Jeff McNeil has not been the batting champion himself, and I'll preface this too. I'm talking about the blocking the plate call at the end, or non-call at the end of Wednesday night's game against the Cubs. And look, being a referee in any sport is incredibly difficult. But what really bothers me is that sometimes they pick and choose when to enforce the rules here. All right. Technically, Miguel Amaya set up in an illegal position, blocking the plate. He had his foot on the plate. By the way, I think after replay, it shows that Pete Alonso got his hand down before he got tagged. Tie goes to the runner, it turns out, is a myth. But, all I want here is consistency. I do not necessarily believe that Miguel Amaya was actually blocking the plate, because he did give him a path eventually to slide. But what's the point of having a rule laid out if it's not going to be enforced? We see this in every sport. The NBA, what's a charge? In the NFL, pass interference, holding, etc. All I ask for across the board is some consistency and some accountability, because, we heard Chad Fairchild, who accidentally left his mic on at the end of the review, saying, take it up with the league office, which is what bothers me. So, like I said, just give me some consistency and, either keep the rule or get rid of it.
Yeah, that
was
sure
by the way.
One game. That was
saying, by the way, that's, tie goes to the runner is a myth. That's never been real. Like, that is the biggest, like, baseball.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. I remember playing Little League and being like, dude, tie goes to the runner. Nonsense. But anyways, that'll wrap up our show today. Thank you all for tuning in. And make sure to follow us on Twitter and let us know what you guys think about anything we've discussed today. Maybe something you want us to discuss. Tell us at LAR_baseball on both Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on Twitter follow Splash at Mr. Splashman19. Follow Alex at the Sports Guy 242. Follow myself at Mathias_A_K. And hey, follow our producer Jack. He did an awesome job today at Starblade125. Make sure to drop us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Losses Above Replacement. But for everyone at LAR, thank you all for listening. Stay safe. And I hope to see you all real soon. Thank you.